Is it smart to plan for growth? Like I tend to like, just view myself as floating down a river and whatever comes my way comes my way.
Yeah,
Here we are, another
here we are.
episode of the Fitz and Franson show.
Welcome
How you
back.
doing, Fitz?
Doing well. A little tired. 7-year-old's going through some sleep progression stuff and deciding that I'm going to join him in that, but we're going to power through, buddy.
Yeah. I noticed you had an energy drink. I'm a little jealous. So what are we talking about on today's episode, Matt?
So, excited because we're going to introduce our audience. It's a growing audience, we'll say it that way, but we're going to introduce the
Hmm.
audience to our 6-week program that we built, and we're starting to take some dealers through and hoping to get some more people to join up here as the year goes on. And going to do episode one of what's going to be a 6-part mini series that we're going to put together on planning for growth.
That's good. That's good. It-
Yeah, I think that at a certain point in all of our lives, maybe even throughout the day, we just kind of take it as it comes and do a little bit of the floating. And every now and again, floating on a lazy river is a good thing. But when it comes to your business or what you're hoping to actually get out of a calendar year, and what you're putting together for the people that decided to sign up and trust you with their livelihoods as well too, I think it's important to put together a plan. So what we're going to do over the course of 6 weeks is really dive into all of the metrics and all of the numbers that drive the business, what they mean for everybody and what they mean for each department, what they mean for each individual within those departments, who should be watching what, right, and who should be driving what. And then ultimately, hopefully what they turn into for everybody is better income, better results, more efficiency, a lot more fun for them at the end of the year, and as an owner or a leader, hopefully a little bit more net profit for you as well too. So, and it
sure.
starts with kind of what you were alluding to there, which is step one is we got to start understanding what setting goals looks like and what that means for ourselves. So that's kind of what
Yeah.
week one looks like for us.
That's good. So I got a question for you. I work with a lot of customers that they tell me that they wear all the hats in the company. So you mentioned letting the different roles in the company know what they own and what they take care of. Is this something that's relevant for kind of an owner operator as well, or for bigger organizations?
Yeah, no, look, whether you're, that kind of million, 2 million, or, on your way to those things right now, or 10, 15, 20, $30 million, this is something that everybody needs to start doing or have started doing already. This is a process you can go through. Size and scale does not matter, right? And
Sure.
whether you have some of those roles right now or not, uh, this is how you prepare for them, right? This is where you kind of set those milestones and markers for we know these things are coming, right? And we're not reinventing the wheel. We know that, hey, at 5 million, 10 million, these roles exist. We know if we start planning appropriately, we know when we hit kind of this rough patch or struggle point, that's the role that we're going to have to plan, budget for. And guess what? Hey, we have that set aside, ready to go. And it's not as big a pain point as it could have been if we weren't prepped for it and ready to go. So yeah, so no, it can be for owners, it can be for owners and their sales manager and marketing manager. It can be for the owner that is the marketing manager with their general sales manager. It can be for the leaders of an organization.
That's good. And I like that you touched on this can actually prep you to get that next hire. I've talked to a
Yeah,
lot of dealers that say, I'm tired of wearing all of the hats. Where do I start? So this is great.
yeah, 1,000,000%. Start getting somebody else to wear a hat or two. They look good in it, right? Give them a chance
Hmm.
to try it on and wear it around. Maybe wash it before you hand it off to them, right? And
Hmm.
and let them take the reins a little bit and trust that they can do it. So I think, Jay. So we start this process with understanding goal setting looks like. So you think it's a good idea? Let's start there with our episode today. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. Goals. Let's do it.
All right. So we do a lot of this, right, with our clients and our customers. We talk about, okay, and I think in a previous episode, we had the three questions that we talked about, right? And
Hmm.
one of those is kind of where do you want to go, right? Where do you
Yeah.
want to end up? One of the things I know both of us find is that tends to be a very easy question, I think, for people to answer on a very high level, that 30,000 foot view, right? So, if I were to ask you that and we were role playing it and you're the owner, what do you think the most typical question or response is? Like, hey, you're $1 million now. What do you want to do next year?
Yeah. More.
Sure. That's great, right? So
Yep.
sales rep, right? Same thing. Like, hey, you sold this last year. What do you want to sell next year?
Yeah.
More,
More.
right? Yeah. So it's funny, as I was a sales manager and sales leader, I was going through these end of year meetings with my people. And one of the things that was just a constant theme was this big, large idea was always the thing that people would come to us with, right? At the end of the year, this is what you did last year. What are you hoping to do next year? More. You go through an interview process, like, what do you need to make? What do you want to make? Well, I want to make as much as I can. That's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
How, right?
Yep. Yeah.
And I don't know why this was kind of always the image that came to my mind. I don't know if this is something that you use or something similar you use, Jay, in your coaching world, but this I think is an important concept as we start to build this program out for the people that we have inside of it and the people that are going to sign up with us. For you to understand is that that type of goal setting or that mindset around goal setting is the guy in the raft on the left here, right?
Yep.
And the goal is the island, right? And
Hmm.
when you lay it out there, it sounds great, right? You got the sunglasses on, the sun is shining, and that beach over there looks beautiful, right? But he doesn't have a paddle and he doesn't quite reach the water with his feet or his hands. And
Yep.
when he kind of realizes that he's drifting further and further out into the ocean, he
Yep.
doesn't have a whole lot of direction or control over getting to that island. He's at the mercy of the wind and the tide and all of the other things. And before you realize it, it's stormy, it's hot, and you're sunburnt and you're dehydrated and all of these other things. And even if you end up making it to your goal, you might be too battered and beaten to really enjoy the fact that you got there.
Yep.
And what we want to think about is, okay, the people that are really successful and the people that end up reaching their goals more consistently are the people that train for the marathon, that end
Yep.
up with a coach, that end up with somebody that's going to help lay out a full training program. Hey, marathon is in 12 months. Here is
Yep.
everything you're going to do for the next 12 months. Every training step, program, every nutritional habit that you're going to take. In the day of the program, this is exactly how much water you're going to drink. And this is every step you're going to take. And I'm going to be right there with you, cheering you on along the way, right? As the manager, as the owner, as to whatever it is. These are the shoes you should wear. This is the type of clothing you should wear. Everything down to the like the smallest detail is planned out so that if a bump in the road happens, we know what we do. We know how to adjust. We know how to pivot. We know what the next step is we need to take to get there. And like I
Yep.
said, as a manager, as a leader, I get to be right there with you. I want to be in the car in the air conditioning next to you cheering you on. I'm not going to be in the ultra marathon heat in the desert, kind of thing, but
Yep.
I'm going to be there cheering you on. So a bit long winded.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I'm rambling, but I feel like it's really important. And I don't know if you have anything, similar that you use in coaching
Yeah.
that might be good to add here.
Yeah, well, I think it's, in coaching, I talk about, do you live a proactive life or a reactive life? And I
Mm,
think a lot of people need to be reminded of that lens through which they view it. And the drifter and the ultra marathoner is uh, a good visual of that. And when I talk to dealers, I say, do you show up at the beginning of the day ready to win it? You and I've talked about, kick today's butt,
yeah.
or do you show up and open your email and just react to what comes your way? And the idea that, another good way to explain it is, are you the main character in your life or are you the author? And people
Yeah.
that view themselves as the main character of their life actually are subject to the whims of the author, and they're actually powerless. The main character is the one that has the author write in the antagonist and writes in the mountains to climb and those things like that. But when you choose to be the author of your life instead, you get to actually take control of it and proactively write out the story that you want to see. So, great visuals. The guy that's having a good time, he sees the coastline, he's enjoying the sun and the shades. But you're right, he's not equipped to actually get to where he needs to go. So, absolutely,
Yeah.
are you proactive or reactive in the way you run your business?
Yeah, I think too, one of the things that I always liked about this concept between these two, visuals here is, I've never run a marathon. I know it might be hard to believe if you look at me, right? But you know, I have friends that have, and I got one in particular. We're actually going to go visit them this weekend, and he's just one of those guys that, like, everything he does well. His first ever marathon he ran, he trained for. You'll like this, Jay, because I know you did a marathon one time. First one he ever did, he accidentally qualified for the Boston Marathon.
Wow,
Right? Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. But so he had a friend of his that he asked to coach him, and that first conversation, if you're going to train for a marathon, at least his experience was okay. Like, tell me your baselines, right?
Mhm.
So how much do you run now? What are your split times? What do you do? Like all of the different terminologies and times and metrics and things that are important for you to know, so that you can lay out, okay, hey, at this time, in a month you should be here, and that next month you should be there, and so on and so forth until the day of the race, right? I'm sure in
Yep.
your experience it was similar.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's funny because as I was hearing the story, it made me think about, well, that's kind of the same thing that we need to take like our dealers, our sales reps, our marketing managers, all of these people through in order to understand how to put together their plans for next year. When you and I are asking our dealers, now to go through these programs, I know one of the things we're always, I wouldn't say necessarily shocked, but maybe a little bit surprised at times to know is how often people aren't tracking the numbers as closely as they should be, or aren't aware of the numbers as closely as they should be. Is that fair to say in your
Oh,
experience?
yeah, the amount of times I've said, "Well, what is this number?" Oh, I don't know. I'd have to ask somebody, or I haven't updated the spreadsheet yet, or I don't know how to pull that report in my CRM. I'd have to get back to you. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? I think to be fair to those individuals, there's probably one or two, if not both of those reasons that may both of these reasons that combine into why that happens is, sticking with the analogy, they got into this because they like running and they just do it and
Mhm.
they don't think about the business side
Yep.
of it,
Yeah.
or they're wearing all the hats and things get very busy and they have to do the day-to-day stuff. They don't, and they push that running the business side of it aside to stay afloat on the raft, right? And
Mhm.
before they know it, it becomes something that instead of being pushed aside, it's buried in a closet somewhere and it's out of sight, out of mind, and they don't have any time to get back to it. But the reality of it is, if it's ever going to change and if it's ever going to be something that they're going to grow and be able to remove one of those hats and hand it off to somebody else who's going to require a salary and potentially a bonus structure and all of those other things that are required to grow, they have to monitor these numbers because they are the engine that feeds the machine. It's 100% necessary. And at the end of the day, our business is a very simple math equation. And if you
Yes, it
start to
is.
understand these numbers a little bit better and you watch them regularly, you can make very smart decisions as opposed to guesses and, as you said, like reactions to things.
Yeah. And I think about the phrase, it's not it's what is it? It's not personal, it's just business.
Hmm.
And I think that, to your point here, when you know the numbers to track, you're actually able to settle your own maybe anxiety or uncertainties and just look at the numbers and let them tell the story so you don't have to sit there and scratch your head. So let's jump into
Yeah.
the numbers. Probably just what's in your bank account, right? Like, is that enough, or what are we talking about here?
It can be a fun one to look at if you're doing it the right way. That's for
Yeah,
sure, right?
yeah.
Could be a pretty depressing one to look at too if you're doing it the wrong way. So,
Hmm.
look, the numbers are the start of the story, so you got to know the right ones to look at, right? And then,
Yep.
when they're off, you got to know the right questions to ask after that. So, what we develop for our people that we're taking these program through this program is, I refer to it as a scorecard. Okay,
Hmm.
I don't like to say a report card because I wasn't very good at school. Mine weren't great, right?
Yeah.
So score,
Anxiety inducing.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The PTSD comes back.
Yeah.
Uh, so a scorecard, right? So something that would look similar to this. Okay, these might not be all of the numbers you would look at on a regular basis. These might be a little bit different from what some look at on a regular basis, but these are the numbers that pretty consistently most companies out there that are doing it the right way are looking at. So it starts with understanding like the departments that are driving the business, right? And pretty simply, most
Hmm.
of us know that it's marketing, sales, and production, right?
Yep.
Install,
Yep.
and they all feed each other, right? So
Yep.
one of the things that I know on the screen here, it's on a straight line, but we were talking about this before we got on our call today, that it really kind of should be a circle, right? Because it all
Yep.
feeds itself. if they're
Yep.
doing things the right way, it's a system that feeds itself. So the question I'll ask you is, I know you're talking to people and asking these questions. How often do you think people should be looking at these numbers?
On marketing, we are looking at those numbers pretty much every week to every 2 weeks. But for our customers, we actually look at them every day.
Yeah.
Every single day, twice a day, we update numbers so we know what's happening in their accounts.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think that there are certain numbers that if you looked at every day, you drive yourself nuts. There are other numbers that if you looked at like every other week and every month, you will miss something that has gone astray and not know it until it's too late, right?
Yeah.
From a people standpoint, like close rate slipping for a sales rep, for example, if you're not looking at that every day, by the
Yeah.
time you turn around 2 3 weeks later, you'll notice that Joey has gone from closing 40% to 20%, and you won't have
Yeah.
stopped to ask the question of like, hey, what's going on, Joey? Everything okay? Right?
Yeah.
And you'll have lost a good rep, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
definitely need to have your top line numbers looked at on a regular basis, and be able to know when something's askew, where to go and where to dig into. But if you're looking
Yeah.
at them on a regular basis, you'll see the blinking light more often quickly, and you'll be able to go dig into that number more effectively at the right times. So
Yeah. And in marketing, I tell people that we're either chasing consumer interest or we're shaping it. And that's what marketing does is you're always looking for trends. And so we track on a daily basis just because we want to catch the trend earlier than anybody else. Facebook, Google, they're going to tell you, "Oh, turn the ad on and don't touch it for a couple weeks." And more traditional marketing, like if you turn on a TV ad or a radio, it's got a set time for it to run, and so you can't really do much about it. But in the digital space, you want to catch these things early. You want to go, which ads are people being drawn to, which promotions are being they people are being drawn to, and make those decisions and those pivots quickly.
100%. So, look, I think when you look at this, right? So, right now, you might be that million, $2 million, company. And as an owner or leader of the organization, you might own the top line of all of these numbers. And you
Hmm.
might have a sales rep or two, and maybe an events rep or two, or whatever it is, or somebody that's helping you, place the ads, kind of thing, but you're responsible for making sure these numbers go where they're supposed to go. You get a little bit bigger, you got a sales manager. Well, they're responsible for managing the sales dashboard, or scorecard, whatever you refer to it. You got a production manager who's responsible for managing the production numbers, right? These become their daily drivers. And what is, as you put it, like, what does winning look like? This
Yep.
is their scorecard, and this is like how you teach them what day in and day out success looks like, and how you reward them for success, or hey, we need to coach you up in these areas. So they're not showing up every day going, hey, what do I do today, boss? Right? this
Yep.
is this is what you do every day. So
Yeah.
this is direction for them as well too. So let's kind of go through some of these as we're looking at them, right? And maybe we can give some of those out there who aren't tracking them. And there's probably a lot of people who do track some of these, maybe not all of them, right? But who do track some of them. We can go through them and talk a little bit about what some of these might mean if they're not aware of them. And
Hmm.
again, like, for example, NSLI, I know, like, when I was with another organization, they refer to it as RPA, revenue per appointment. You can call them slightly different things, but at the end of the day, they mean the same, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
cost of marketing, right? I know we've talked about this in the past. We look at that as a percentage basis, right? And if we're going to build that out, uh, you know, we feel that that's a good way to look at that. Can you give a little bit of insight as to why?
Yeah, you want to be able to recognize the bigger picture and say, if we're $1 million company, we should understand that the cost of marketing is around 15% right now. If you're in a growth mode, it's around 20%. And so you can maybe put that top end and low end, brackets in, and then go, well, where are we sitting at year to date? What have we spent on marketing? Pull it from your P&L and say what got categorized as marketing, and how does that compare to revenue. And I was just talking with somebody that said, hey, we're going to grow by this percentage, and so they said, so next year we're going to make this amount of money, cost of marketing is this percentage, we have to spend this much next year. And a percentage is easier to acknowledge when you go, oh, we have to spend $300,000 on marketing.
Yeah,
300,000, wow, that's a no, you're just spending 15%. So
right.
it's a big distinction there.
It makes it a little bit more palatable. There's no doubt
Yep.
about that, right? Because it's, and also, hey, by the way, you don't have to write me that check today. right? We're
Yep.
going to
Yep.
spread that out over 12
Yep.
months. It's going to be
Yep.
okay, right? I had a very similar conversation at a previous stop. Budgeting to do, you know, 25. You do the math on 15, 18%. When I
Mm,
say 25 million,
yeah.
hey, it's okay. Like, I know we don't have that in the bank today. We're going to have that over the course of the next 12 months. That's
Mhm.
what we're going to do.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the percentage is the right play there. One of the things I'll point out as we're going through this sheet, right? Because I know this is something we've explained to some of the dealers that we're taking through stuff like this. This is high level, right? Your scorecard starts at the top. If, let's say, Jay, this number starts blinking red, right?
Mhm.
23%.
Yep.
That's off, right? What's the next step for you as a marketer?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and solve why, right? You
Okay.
start asking questions. You start looking through your marketing materials. Are there sources that aren't converting? Are there sources that that cost per lead on one of your platforms just is way out of whack? Seasonality, I can tell you we have some customers where in the busy season their cost per lead is like $50. In the busy season or in the slow season, they're like $600. So
Okay.
taking a look at that.
Yeah, so it's overall, right? And and again, there might be some months it's a little bit higher, some months it's a
Mhm.
little bit lower. If it's blinking, if it's rapidly flashing, right? Now we need to dig to that next layer, right? But
That's right.
again, if you're at that owner level and or senior level, type position, and those numbers are coming in within budget, then you might not find it necessary to dig beyond that, right? But if the
Yeah.
goal is to squeak out another percent of profit, that's where you go down to that next level and go, okay, cool. Of the next level, what was, and again, getting into maybe getting a little ahead of myself for, next episodes, that kind of thing. But those are the things that we would
Mhm.
talk about. Hey, we need to get
Yep.
another level of profit. Good. This is where we'll get into next level stuff.
Yep.
So you mentioned the next one is cost per lead issue, right? Which is,
Yep.
you explained that a little bit, which is what there, Jay?
Yeah. How many dollars does it take to put an appointment on a calendar?
And get a sales rep to a door, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's kind of the simplest thing, right? We spent, however many percentage points to get
Mhm.
our name and phone number out there to get people to raise their hand and say they're interested in us. But ultimately, we got to get sales reps to the door. So keeping at a percent's great, so long as we get people out there.
Yeah. And there's,
Uh,
there's a lot of agencies that are going to try and tell you that views or reach or awareness numbers are what you want to track. And they're like, well, you've reached 100,000 people, and you can appreciate that. Brand awareness is good, but ultimately you go, yeah, but how much did it cost to get my sales guy to somebody's door? So some of those numbers out there that Meta is going to show you or Google's going to show you, they look big, they might seem impressive, but really, ultimately, how many dollars does it take to get my rep to the door?
yeah. Now the next one, this one's always kind of an interesting conversation, right? Because it's you got cost of issue and then cost of acquisition,
Hmm.
which is how much it costs us to actually buy a sale, right? And
Hmm.
a job sold. Why track that one, Jay?
Yeah, it's a good question. You kind of want to follow it all the way down to get a bigger picture of what it costs to actually do business.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And I think that there's kind of getting back to like the whole circle thing here too, is how effective is the handoff, right?
Hmm.
And understanding how, okay, yeah, my percentage is good, right? Which means that the handoff is working. Okay. My cost of lead is good. That's not necessarily an indicator that the handoff is working all of the time, right? Because I could maybe drive my cost of lead way, way down and not have a great close percentage and not be creating a lot of volume because I just get a lot of people to agree to let my, nice salespeople in the door. But my cost of acquisition or cost of buying a sale needs to be in line as well too. It's going to be higher than your cost of appointment because you're not going to sell
Yeah.
every appointment you go to. Is there ever a use case if you go to that next level where a cost of acquisition might be higher than other lead categories? So you have a particular lead category where your cost of acquisition is high, but you would still say that's a good lead source?
Yeah, obviously social media is where it's at. You have attribution tracking is where the customer saw you here and there and everywhere, but they came through maybe Google. And so oftentimes people struggle with Facebook leads because they're more tire kickers, but you have to understand that maybe that cost per acquisition on Facebook leads is actually driving a ton of traffic over to Google.
Mhm.
And so those people that were first introduced to your product or service on Facebook, the serious ones moved on, and they're going to tell you, "Oh, I saw you on Google." And they didn't.
Yeah.
They saw you on Facebook. And if you have a good tracking system in place, you can do attribution tracking and see that social drives a lot of traffic to Google.
Yeah, the other one too is, I'll give you an example from a previous life. We had a lead program that had a national spokesperson on it. It was our most expensive lead program. Cost us a
Mhm.
lot, but our costs on it were higher. But our close rate on it was one of the highest close rates on a lead source we could get. We didn't get as many leads on it as I would
Mhm.
have liked, but I would take every single one that I could. So our cost of acquisition was a little bit higher, but I mean, we closed almost every one that we got. So
Yep.
again, the fact that it cost me $200 more to get one of those, I'm okay with, because I'm going to get them more consistently.
Yep.
So again, it's just one of those things where you're okay with it at times. So then obviously the number of leads is pretty self-explanatory. I think, Jay, like we got to produce enough leads to fill a calendar up to make sure we're
Yep.
producing enough
Yeah.
opportunity to keep guys running and busy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a great number to use. Historical data is how many were issued, how many we sold. And then if we want to grow, it's simple math. You go, oh, so if we want to grow by 20%, we need 20% more leads. Well, what's that?
Yeah, theory, right? Or you get to push on your salespeople too a little bit more. Like maybe we
Yep.
need 20% more. We can only really stretch that marketing budget another 15%. So we're going to get
Yep.
15% more leads and ask you guys to close about 2 points higher next year, right?
That's right.
Kind of thing. So there's both people contributing. I'm not going to put it all on marketing,
Yeah.
not like
Sales
the
guys
rest
got
of
to
my
pull their
sales
weight
reps. Yeah,
once in a
yeah,
while.
yeah. I'm so quickly losing my sales guy card on this show.
Yeah.
Uh,
Speaking of which, let's move on.
yeah,
So
there we go.
you made a bigger category for sales. Do you think that they're more important than everybody else? It seems like it.
No, look, it's funny because I was actually looking at this as we're going through. We have one acronym, right, or
Mhm.
one, one like that, and then like the rest of ours. I was looking at going like ours are kind of like meathead numbers. They're pretty simple, pretty easy to understand. So volume's an easy one, right? Obviously you're gonna tell your team they need to sell a certain amount at the beginning of a year. Here's the thing: as before we kind of go through all of these any further, like this is for the year. If you're looking at this divided across 12 months, the same evenly, and we'll dive into this as we go through the next 6 weeks, you're looking at it the wrong way, right? Because
Yeah.
as we just talked about, there is some seasonality to it. And you need to plan accordingly. But for the
Mhm.
purposes of your overall scorecard, did you or did you not hit your overall targets, right? Is what we're
Yep.
looking at. So you give them a big number. Again, did we produce the volume off of the leads and cost of marketing and CPLI that marketing did or didn't produce, right?
Mhm.
We had a closing percentage goal, right? So were we efficient with all of the things that we were given? That's
Yep.
for me. That's the simplest way to put it. It's your efficiency number. Okay,
Mhm.
and look, there's a lot of different ways that people look at your close rates and measure close rates, and the one that has always kind of gotten me is like we cancel things out of the system because like I don't know I don't know they didn't agree with something when I was there or something. There's a million different. At the end of the day, I quick side story, had a guy that I worked with. He was another manager in our organization. I used to love listening to phone calls where reps would call and say, hey, let me tell you a little bit about an important. You go, oh, what? Nope. And I can cut them off and go, did you or did you not sell it? At the end of the day, that's all that matters. Yes or no. Then you're 0 for 1 or you're 1 for 1.
Mhm.
That's all that happened
Mhm.
here, right? So
Mhm.
if we give a lead, a name, a phone number, an address, and a time to be there, did we or didn't we sell it? And they're there, right? If they were
Yep.
there, and did we or didn't we sell it? That's our true close rate. If we're
Yep.
measuring it based off of the numbers and budget, that's how we need to know it because I spent money on
Mhm.
all of those names and phone numbers.
That's
Okay.
right.
All right. So it's what I call true close rate. NSLI is net sale per lead issue. Most people are aware of what that means. Unfortunately, I think most people couldn't tell you what theirs is off the top of their head, right? And I
Mhm.
don't need you to know it within a penny, but you should know it within a couple dollars, right? Within a
Yep.
hundred bucks off the top of your head, which means you need to be looking at it on a regular basis. Your salespeople should know that too. Like that divided by or times their percentage is how much money you pay them to go to every single house.
Mhm.
That's how they should think about it. All of those
Yep.
ones that marketing shouldn't
Yep.
have sent them to, right? If they have an MSLI of $3,000, they got paid 300
Mhm.
bucks to show up and say hello to that person
Yep. That's right.
if they make 10%, right?
Mhm.
I know, I've quickly become the guy that talks financing all the time. It's a tool that I think is really, really critical, especially with some of the things that have happened recently in our home improvement world for homeowners to consider.
Yep.
It's a way to protect them a little bit better in their money. But if it's not something you're tracking, your budget can get out of whack pretty quickly.
Yep.
It's also a tool that can help you grow. So if you're not tracking it and talking about it regularly, then it's not important to your people. So it should be a metric that's on your scorecard, on their scorecards, then it becomes important.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this can be different for every company out there, like where you're starting right now and where you want to go. But set a target, set a target for your company, set a target for your individuals, and put it on a scorecard. Did you or did you not hit it? Now, the next one here, Jay, is sales capacity.
Hmm.
I know as a marketer, you like that number,
Hmm.
and I don't think enough people understand this one. So
Hmm.
we talk a lot about speed to lead with a lot of people. Can you, as the marketing end of our partnership here, can you explain the importance of speed to lead?
Oh, yeah, it's everything. I mean, and, there's a lot of studies out there that say get to them within seconds. And currently in the home services, home improvement industries, there's so much competition and there's so much impatience on the consumer's part that I'm just going to go with the first person that answers the phone or the first person that calls me. And so that tied to sales capacity is I cannot call somebody a lead and say, "Oh yeah, we can see you on the third Tuesday of this month."
Mhm.
Right? And they're like, "Yeah, but it's the first of the month." And so I really look at same day, next day appointments as gold. And I've got
Yeah,
a lot of sales guys that are like, "Give me those all day long." These customers are excited to see me. It's top of mind. And so you can't run at full capacity. The thing I like
yeah.
least in this business is turning marketing down because their sales calendar is full.
Oh yeah, yeah. I will tell you, if that was ever something that my people came to me with like to have a conversation about
Hmm.
having to do, they had exhausted literally everything else, including probably job boards, because I was not going to be happy that we had let
Yep.
capacity get out of whack.
Yep.
So I just recently was going over this and pulled the data, from all of the sources I can find, out there that are available. And I'm probably not far off, but I believe it's roughly 78% of people that are buying from the first company that contacts them. Okay.
Yep.
There's not a whole lot of concrete data out there, but most experts will tell you that roughly in that like 80ish percent to 90ish percent are going to buy from the first company they meet with.
Mm.
Okay, you have to get there quickly. And one of the things that I will always express to homeowner or to companies is I think that's because we all, as consumers in this world, have one thing in common. We're procrastinators. It was not the first day that we started thinking about doing this thing. It
Yeah.
was not, right? We've been thinking about doing the floor, the windows, the door, the roofing, whatever it is, since we moved in, since Bill down the street got it done 2 years ago. And we finally were motivated after seeing Jay's ad on Facebook for the 15th, 20th, 30th time to
Yep.
click on it and go, yeah, you know what? I would like to know more about that. And then, oh,
Hmm.
shoot, they did respond to me. Yeah, I am available on Tuesday, right? Like
Yep.
we went all the way through that path to get somebody to the house. Like we're not as motivated anymore in that moment than we're ever going to be again. Like that is the most motivated we're ever going to be to do the thing we've been putting off for whatever period of time it is that we've been putting it off. Get
Yep.
there now. So healthy sales capacity. It's not 90%, it's not 95%, it's not fill my guy's calendar because then I'm pushing people down the line and I
Hmm.
can't pull people off the board to train them and support them when they're struggling. I
Yep.
have to keep jamming appointments down their throat that they're not selling and getting frustrated with. So healthy in my opinion is that 75 to 80% range. Right? So again, it's something we need to look at and watch. I can give guys rest that are burning out because they're running too much. I can allow them to take vacations. Their kid gets sick. I can go, no problem. Go take care of your kid. You can be a human being.
Hmm.
And I'm not worried about the like, hey, it cost me $500 to get that lead. Are you sure he's that sick? Like, I
Yeah.
don't have to have that
Right.
conversation. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
And unfortunately, I've been there, like, because we've been tight on capacity.
Hmm.
Tough conversation to have. So can't stress that one enough. That one is a very, very big one. And look, if I could tell you, there are The old adage is that sales solves most problems in your business. I can tell you there is very few things that percentage capacity, whether it's in production or marketing or sales, there are very few things that capacity won't solve too.
Mhm.
So that's my
It's good.
soapbox for the day, Jay.
Yeah, it's good. Are you sure it's the only one? I'm feeling like there might be another one coming. So
The
let's
monster's
move on
running
to
through me right
production.
now.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, production. Look, there's again, production's a pretty cut and dry one as well too. There are the nice thing for production is if sales has done the things that they're supposed to do, and I roll my eyes a little bit because that has been always one of the challenges is like if we sell clean jobs and hand them off cleanly. Right. And unfortunately, sales guys aren't known for the best paperwork or cleanest jobs all the time. That's a culture thing. You got to train that the right way and make sure that they know that they affect the next person in line. Then what production has is a very clean set of metrics that are very repeatable if they are aware of what they're supposed to hit. Okay,
Mhm.
so backlog is something that you should set a goal for to build and maintain appropriately based off of seasonality, right?
Yep.
We know when our busy seasons are, we know when our slow seasons are. So we need to build a backlog towards our slow season so that our guys stay busy during that period of time. But we also need to know when it's time to start cutting into the backlog when we're going to be throwing a lot of logs on that fire so that we're not
Mhm.
losing sales because we're 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks out. And I'll just go with the competitor because they can get here quick.
Yeah.
Okay. So set a mark 4 or 5 weeks, whatever it might be, whatever's healthy for you and your business. And if you get beyond that, what do you think you need to do, Jay?
Oh, hire a sales guy.
So, what solves most problems?
Sales.
Sales and
Yeah.
capacity,
That's
right?
right.
Or go get another truck and get another crew out
Mhm.
on the road, right?
Yep.
Capacity on production can solve that problem too. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a strategic conversation. I've had a lot of marketing conversations where people are like, "Hey, we're booked 8, 9 weeks out. Do you think the digital marketing space can support another truck or support another salesperson?" So you do have real conversations to be had about the size of your market and stuff like that. But yeah, if you're booked out 8, 9, 10 weeks, it's you have a great opportunity to grow the business.
100%. No doubt. The next one down there, right, is done on time, right? So,
Mhm.
look, it costs you money every time your truck leaves the building, right? And if it doesn't return with a completed job and a collected check or, credit card or finance payment, then it just cost you money. It didn't make you
Mhm.
money. So, if you have a job that is this many square feet should be done in this many, in this amount of time, or this size window job should be done in this many days, whatever it is, then was it done in that amount of time or not, right? So
Yep.
tracking that, for me, it was always 95% or better. That means that our
Mhm.
guys they're efficient with their time, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're not making mistakes on the job. So I know 95% of the time we're going out, we're finishing jobs, we're collecting checks, right? You picture that big dollar sign above the truck, it goes out, black or red or whatever in the morning, and it comes back green in the evening. That's what I want to see,
Mhm.
it 95% or better. If we're doing that, we're hitting the right marks.
Yep.
Next one's callbacks. They kill you, right? So
Yep.
if they're hell bent on hitting 95%, but at the flying in the face of quality and making mistakes, we got a problem there too. So your
Mhm.
managers on production should be watching that, making sure that we're not, yeah, we're finishing everything on time, but tomorrow we're going back and fixing everything. The balance doesn't work there, right?
Yeah.
So you got to track both of those. And then your cost of
Yeah.
install.
That's
Like,
good.
are guys doing it all in one day because they're working 2 hours of overtime? That number doesn't add up
Mhm.
either.
Yeah.
Right. I
Yeah.
know it's a lot here on this sheet. We tried to kind of make this all encompassing. Usually, I know what we do, Jay, is we have a call with all of our dealers that are going through these programs, get an idea a little bit about their business, and we custom build some of these scorecards for them, going, here are the top 3 to 4 in each one of these categories that we need to know to start building out your program. But what we know is that these are pretty common across most businesses that can be universal, right? So
Yeah.
I was pretty thorough with that, Jay, but what did I miss or what do you want to fill in there?
Yeah, I think that we need to, I think the next step is how is all of this tracked
Yeah.
and do they have the systems in place to know what these numbers are? And we've worked with a
Yeah.
lot of different tracking systems out there, and it's a great conversation to have with the dealers saying what are you doing to make sure you have your eye on on the prize.
Yeah, if you could make, I guess, we don't have any sponsors, with CRMs or, trackers out there, but I know we have a couple of dealers we work with that use some out there. What are ones you see some of the dealers using that you're seeing out there? And I guess what are some pitfalls for some, and we won't name names obviously, but for things out there that we see that people maybe you'd recommend steering clear of as far as like workarounds we've seen.
Yeah. I think that a system that produces the reports you need is
Mhm.
like, I mean, just absolutely the most important thing. We've worked with a bunch of different ones. Currently, the majority use Builder Prime. Builder
Mhm.
Prime is pretty good, and they're pretty proactively helping the network, and they're pretty quick to respond to customer requests with issues, and the uptime of the software is pretty reliable. And you can go in and create a lot of custom reports. I think that the stuff that I'd steer away from as soon as you can justify the expense, which should be as soon as possible, is don't do pen and paper, don't do paper copies, don't do your Google Calendar,
Mhm.
don't do notes on your phone. Um, I think the spreadsheets are great to get started, to just start to like pay attention to these things, but I would say steer away from anything that's manual entry as quickly as possible,
Yeah.
because something like Builder Prime or any of these other ones, you can pick by date range and a whole bunch of other options and really customize reports to dig
Mhm.
into what are marketing numbers, what are sales market numbers, and what are production numbers.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that there are, look, there's always going to be some sort of manual entry into your CRM
Yeah,
for anybody that's like hesitant in that world.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, having those things at your fingertips and seeing a number that it'll start to stand out to you. Like that number
hmm,
seems off, and we then know who's responsible for entering those numbers, and we can get with them and work with them on like why is this looking? Oh, we're not entering it on time, the right way, in the right spot, and we can fix that a lot quicker than the spreadsheet that maybe somebody's not entering in at all, or they're doing it on their own desktop versus your desktop, and then they got to mail it to you, and it becomes a mess, right?
yeah,
And at the end of the day, what we start doing is we start making decisions with not even bad data but no data at all, and that's not a decision,
hmm,
that's a guess, and
yeah,
that's a problem, right?
yeah.
So
There's definitely talked to quite a few dealers that I'm like, hey, what's your close rate? And they're like, if I had to guess, it's like, no,
mm,
no, don't guess. You
I
need
don't.
you need to know.
Yeah, I would rather you not tell me any number at all, right?
Hmm.
Because any decision we make from that point forward is a bad decision, right?
Yeah,
Or any advice that I would give you would be bad advice. Like if I told you
yeah,
you're doing great, keep doing what you're doing. Or if I told you you're doing horrible, change everything. It's bad advice because it's
mhm,
based off of bad data
yeah,
or really not data at all. Yeah.
yeah,
Look, I can't encourage you enough. If it's not something that you have, um, Jay, you made the comment about as soon as you can justify the price or the expense rather, give me a call. I will show you how easy it is
yeah,
to build that expense into your budget, and you'd be surprised to know that it's likely already there,
yeah,
and it's like a sale or two away from being covered
yeah.
additionally next year.
Well, and I think that for the owners, we've talked about this previously, and I don't mean to wander off, but a lot of reasons to get in business, but a big one is like freedom of time. And
Hmm.
so in a lot of these purchases, you look at it as hours saved. What is my time worth? What does the company pay me, the owner, hourly, essentially, if you can break it down into that. And then you say, if I spend 5 hours a week working on this project, I'm pretty sure that CRM paid for itself within a couple hours as far as a
Massively.
monthly subscription to it. Yeah.
And think about the time saved having to ask everybody to like give you information. And when you
Yeah.
can wake up in the morning, run a report, a dashboard, pull that up, and know
Hmm.
within a very small margin of error what happened in your business the night
Yep.
before. Like
Yeah.
that's a that's a powerful thing. And now
Yep.
we know who we need to go pick up and get going for the day, and who we need to like high five for what they did the day before.
Yeah.
That's a big culture builder there too. So
Sure.
um,
Well, we've covered a lot of information. And so we've got some homework here for those listeners that are interested in kind of going down this journey with us. So, three big questions. I'm going to kind of knock them off real quick. But, number one, answer for yourself. Do you track your metrics? Do you? Just be honest. And how? and we've given you guys some recommendations on tools. Number two, if you track them, are you tracking them the right way? And if you have questions about how to do that, feel free to reach out to us. Do a screen grab of the previous slide with the scorecard and start looking through that. And then the third one, this one can be tough to do because Matt and I were talking before the show. You don't know what you don't know. So
Hmm.
what's missing? What are your blind spots? And this might be just a great opportunity to have a conversation with maybe some of your employees. They might know better than you what's missing, and get those questions answered for yourself and see your business improve pretty quickly. So, any
Yeah, I
closing
think
thoughts?
no, look, what we've done, in kind of the pre-calls with those that are in the program, and then today, and the work we do in week one, and what we're taking everybody through in our show today is building the foundation, right, for growth. You got to
Yep.
know where you are, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And
Yep.
you used a very good word, that you have to be honest, and you got to stare those things, you know wear the bull between the horns, so to speak,
Yep.
right? And if you do those things, you can grow, and you can grow pretty quickly. So happy to help with that. And if you made it this far in the show, looking forward to seeing you on the next one. And hopefully you got some good nuggets out of it. And hopefully we'll get you some good ones on the next one as well too.
Sounds good. And as always, if you haven't yet, hit the bell, hit the like and subscribe, join the team.
That's it. Happy hunting.